sequence is for those of you who are 34 weeks pregnant and onwards, in order to prepare your pelvis for the birth of your baby. It can be done before 34 weeks too. It's intended to increase the flexibility through your hip joints, keep the mobility through your spine, encourage upright posture through your upper back, increase the flexibility through inner thighs, and there's also some relaxation strategies to relax you, and also some strategies to help relax through the pelvic floor and to strengthen the pelvic floor. And it's also accompanied by my free birth preparation guide, which I will link for you. It has some strategies for posture, to maintain posture, optimal fetal positioning, optimal baby positioning, which is left occiput anterior. So the baby's back is to your abdomen, so the baby's back is slightly more on your left side, with their occiput at the front left side of your pelvis. Some strategies for that. We have some exercise strategies other than this video, some nutrition, and some other tips on mental preparation and hormonal or emotional preparation too. Before we begin, always check with your doctor or midwife to check if exercise is suitable for you, even a gentle video such as this. It's always best to just be on the safe side. Do ask their advice or physiotherapist's advice if you have any pain at the sacroiliac joint, the back, that'd be top of the buttocks in near the pelvis, and also if you have any pain at the pubic symphysis in the front. If you can register, it's pain right in the middle of your pubic bone at the front. So, to begin, find a position that you can sit completely upright through your back. So we don't want to sit sort of with your bum tucked under, where you're sitting more so on the flesh or the muscles of your bum, that your sit bones are out in the front. You want to feel that you're all the way upright and the spine is nice and tall up above. Shoulders nice and open down and back. So we are going to begin with a relaxation breath, which is an abdominal breath. An abdominal breath is one in which when you inhale, you feel that your abdomen expands. So this increases or encourages the parasympathetic nervous system, or the relaxation response within your body. So we begin with that, and we're going to follow on into some pelvic floor or Kegel-like contractions with the breath, all aiming to be gentle and releasing as possible. If you prefer for this part, you can have your hands on your abdomen so you can feel the breath. So if you have your hands low along the lower abdomen, near where your hips will fold, below your belly button, that is where we're going to aim to breathe in. So on inhale, feel your abdomen lightly expand. And on the exhale, encouraging shoulders to drop and breath to naturally release from your body. So we have an intentional filling of the abdomen and a passive exhale. In the beginning, it can be hard to direct your breath into a particular part of your torso if you're not used to doing so. So if you feel that it's not coming quite naturally, or that you're finding you don't have too much room left in your abdomen, don't force it, just enjoy a very deep, natural, relaxing breath, and encourage just the relaxation response from that. That's the goal, relaxation. So following on from this, we will begin the pelvic floor engagement. When we're engaging the pelvic floor, we will aim to contract the muscles of continence, the sphincter muscles, in the pelvic floor. So we have, in order, front to back, front passage for urinary control, in the center, the vaginal passage, and at the back passage, fecal control, or passing wind control. So we'll imagine that when you're contracting, that you're restraining or stopping the flow of urine, front passage, and at the back passage, we get a sense of holding wind in, and in the center we're going to feel that we're lifting the pelvic floor. So with the exhale, the diaphragm here in the ribcage lifts, and when we exhale, we'll get a mirroring effect of the pelvic floor lifting. So it's always you exhale and feel a lift, and inhaling and letting it come down. So we'll be encouraging those muscles to contract very lightly and to relax and let go. We'll aim to feel a sensation of lifting the pelvic floor as opposed to tightening the pelvic floor. So a gentle contraction and lift. So we'll just begin returning to our deep, relaxing breath. My focus is sleep. So on an inhale, feeling that abdominal spreading. On your next exhale, feel as though you're engaging those muscles of continence. So you can imagine that you're blocking the flow of urine or stopping the passage of wind. So similar feelings. And inhaling and allowing your pelvic floor to relax, drop, and spread. And then on the exhale, feeling our sense of lift. And on the inhale, feeling that sense of relaxation. You may naturally notice that when you engage your pelvic floor, there's sometimes a co-contraction of the abdominal wall. So you may also notice you get a sense of movement on the exhale inward through the abdominal wall, and on the inhale we're encouraging that to release and the pelvic floor to release. Maintaining our deep breath, exhaling all the way, getting a light sense of contraction. And on our inhale, inhaling all the way and getting that sense of relaxation. From our pelvic floor and relaxation breath, we're going to move to the butterflies, which are mentioned in the birth preparation guide. So for this, I prefer to be sitting on the floor, so I'm going to come off the blocks. To the back. So we have feet together in front. So we want to again make sure that rather than being curled under in your back, that you can sit all the way upright. So sometimes you may even need something back under your hips, or your feet will be a little bit further out in front. And as your hips get more flexible, you may be able to bring the feet back in. So I like to hold on to my shins when I'm doing this, and all you're going to do is just very lightly almost bend the legs upside down, up and down, upside down, up and down. So the feet are together, it's really soft, you're not really ferociously bending the knees. They're just allowed to take on their own momentum, you just add a little bit. And this encourages the hips to soften really deep in the front where your hips fold, the groin, and it's a little bit of a stretch to the inner thighs. And as you get more flexible, my good days, usually my feet are in a little bit closer, and they're into that here. There we go, actually stretched into it. So this will be a little warm up for the squat section. So a little bit of inner thigh stretching through that. So these are butterflies. So next we're going to move on to the cat stretch. So this is performed on all fours. So on all fours, you're going to have your wrist underneath your shoulder rather than your palm underneath. You can see the difference in the wrist. So you're going to have a little bit forward. Knees are underneath your hips and your feet are relaxed behind. If you find that your wrists are quite sensitive, you can do this on the elbows this way if it's comfortable internally in your back, or as well boxes here. You can do this with your elbows on a coffee table or standing with your elbows resting on a table. That's another way to do it. You can probably do opposite here, just table. Nice, so for cat stretch. I'm going to start out very simply, just with pressing or curving the spine to the ceiling and then coming back toward a flat position. So on this, encourage the pelvis to tilt. You want to feel like your tailbone is curling down toward the floor and the head bows down. So if you're not sure, you could do it sideways to a mirror, as I am, making sure I'm moving correctly for you. You're going to see that your lower back moves upward toward the ceiling. The last time I recorded this video, my lower back didn't move much at all, and I didn't realize until it was all done. So you're going to feel that your tailbone is curling under. You can have a little look underneath, and then coming toward a flat position. So this can be tougher when you're in your later stages of pregnancy, depending on how big you are in relation maybe to your height. I usually find that anyone who comes in who's shorter for pregnancy Pilates, who is shorter or shorter just in their back, proportionally, you'll find that after a while they run out of room and this becomes a little bit tougher. So you can do it with the elbows up a little higher, it's a little bit easier. So we're curving up to the ceiling and then coming toward a straight position. So you do gain a little sense of lifting the abdomen up and inward and keeping a little bit of that engagement as we move to our straighter position. And so from going up toward the ceiling, we're now going to go side to side. So you're going to feel that you pull your hip up toward your ribcage on one side. So my right side is shorter now than my left. And then moving in the other direction. So like a side bend. So maybe a little look in that direction. You take your ear a little bit toward your shoulder to help stretch the neck. To help release any neck and shoulder tension. And you can emphasize for the lower back that you're just keeping your shoulders steady. And we're moving just in the pelvis or the lower back. Feel like a little tail wag. You can do this with your leg. So your hips, your tailbone and your leg are pointing in the same direction. Shoulders staying nice and steady. So this helps keep some mobility in your lower back. And it's great if you're finding that the cat stretch doesn't feel just the same. You might find that the knee can make a little sense to on the floor when you do this. So I feel like you can do it with a towel underneath for a little bit of cushion up. So what I do is I look down, I can see that my arms are pretty much staying still, so my shoulders are staying still. It's a nice movement in the lower back. Take it back. I'm going to go into pelvic circles next. So we're going to do a little circle at your tailbone and feeling that you're drawing a little circle behind, directly behind you. So we're getting a little bit of cat stretch, a little bit of that side to side all in one movement, and we can kind of seek out any potential tension. And we're going to make this a little bit bigger. So for this I usually walk my hands up a little bit further, so that my wrists have a little less pressure when you go forwards with your shoulders. So you don't get that hyperextension in the wrists. And my shoulders often crack when I do this, so you might hear a few of those. So we're pushing the hips out to the side. So here I'm pushing my hips to the left, and then pressing out to the right. I'm getting a little bit of movement along that lateral side of the hips, which is really nice. We're going to go in the other direction. So we circle. This is a great movement for helping release deep within the hips. Weight bearing both sides. stretch through those potentially tight muscles at the outside of the hips. A few more cracks now. And we gradually transform back into our little hip circles at the end now. Taking the hands back. Now we have some side lunges. So beside me I have my reformer box. You could use a coffee table or a low chair. So I'm going to have one foot up on top, my left side. My right leg is a little bit turned out. So I'm going to start just with checking that your knees are aligned forward with your toes. So you don't have your feet turned in and your knee pressing out, or foot turned out and your knee particularly pressing in this way. So we have a look, the alignment of the thigh bone matches the alignment of your foot, and that when you lunge in that direction, they both point in the same direction. So you have joint alignment. And it's just a very soft lunge in that direction. So this way is a little bit easier than the floor version I'm going to show next. In the floor version, there's much more movement in your standing hip, and you get much bigger stretch than this right leg when you're standing on the right leg. So when we're doing this, and I'm on the floor, I'm going to check that your two hip bones, so you can palpate here, the ones that stick out a little bit, are roughly equal height, rather than say the left going a little higher when we do this, or we lunge that way. So you're nice and level across your hips, and we're just lunging back and forth, and as you get a little warmer, you may feel that you can very comfortably go a little bit further. For stability, just make sure that your knees roughly end up over the foot or ankle, rather than progressing a lot past your toes. I think it's sometimes for some people's knees that isn't a very comfortable position anyway. Feel it. It's back and forth. Taking that next deep breath. So you can do this, I usually do everything in reps of 10, but if you like you can do this in further reps. Again, once you switch, check your alignment, and then just progress to lunging to the side. So sometimes one hip can be tighter than the other. Well, the recommendation is that you would do your left side a little bit more so as you progress toward your due date. You get a little bit more room in that left side to encourage your baby's head to settle on that side. So you could do 10 reps on the right, 15 on the left, or if you feel that your left is a little tighter than the right side, you might work a little bit more on your left side to feel a little bit more release through your hip. You always start, never force, always move into a range that feels really, really comfortable. There's a sense of fluidity rather than meeting sort of concrete end point and pushing through. It's always within your body's natural range. If you do yoga and you're seeing this, I know I do Warrior 2 already. If you do Warrior 2 like this, the floor version is quite nice coming up. On the floor, you might choose to cushion your knee with a towel. Always be careful when you take your foot down. So we're going to begin again with the left side. So the right knee is the one that you might choose to put a towel under. My knees are quite used to kneeling now on a hard floor. So again, have a look. Look down the line of the leg that your toes match, your ankle matches. And when you're doing this, it can be shallower range. The knee is already up a little bit higher in relation to your hip, and this leg will get a little bit more stretch. So you're going to feel a little bit on the inside of the right leg when you're standing, kneeling on the right side. So you might choose to keep this quite small. You might choose to stay with the box or with the coffee table, whichever feels better for you. That's the key. So I just keep a steady breath, just focusing on my breath as I move, focusing on the sensations that I'm feeling, the stretch usually on this side. So this in particular, if you do have pain at the pubic symphysis, could be much too much. The one on the coffee table could work for you, but you might choose to leave it out. And again, aiming to keep the two sides of your hips nice and level, so that when you're going to the side, you're getting deeper movement within your right hip. So you can see the way my knee is going a little bit above my hip, and then back down. So gaining that deeper hip movement, and back. And this is a warm-up also for the upcoming squats. If you are seeing this because you've attended my pregnancy Pilates class, I always begin with squats, you'll know that already. So we're going to switch. So place a hand down, make sure you're steady when you're changing over. Again, check your alignment once it looks good. Usually my left hip is the hip that's a lot tighter. Today it's my right hip. Again, if you feel that you have a hip that's a little tighter than the other, you can stay on that side and work a little bit longer on it. And feel that this, the result, the sensation that you have at the end feels quite similar. So if you choose, you can keep going with these. So next we're going to move on to some squat progressions that you can do. The first is like a kneeling squat. It's just getting the movement pattern happening in your hips first. So I'm going to show it sideways. I'll show it first to the front. So your feet are tucked under like a squat, and your knees are out wide, and your hands are going to come down in front. So from the side, my knees are usually on the floor instead of on the yoga mat I'm on today. And you're a little forward, so you just move forward a little bit, and then sinking your hips back toward your heels. Now I do push a little bit further back. Just give your feet quite a stretch. Your feet might not appreciate this. I sit like this a lot, so my feet are okay with it. If not, you can always have your feet pointed back and get a deeper movement in your hips. And then you go a little bit further back. Now try not to tuck your tail or to pelvic tilt under when you do this. So you're trying to encourage a deeper fold in your hips. So keep a sort of straighter line to your back and coming back up. This is a little bit of a stretch to the inner thighs in the beginning. And then mine were very tight when I began. Not in the last couple of minutes, through my life when I began. So we'll do a couple more of these, and then we're going to move on to a seated version, which is my favorite one. At the end, you can always take a break at any point in child's pose. You sink back, you can stay with your elbows down, your head on your forearms, or all the way out. That position is a static stretch through the inner thighs. So we're going to move to the seated version for the squat progressions. So I'll show it to the front first. So I'm going to show it facing forward first and then to the side so you can see the alignment through my back a little bit better. So we're going to I'm going to sit quite close to the front of the box. If you prefer to maybe a coffee table or a couch rather than a Pilates box, I would recommend something where your hips are a little bit higher. Mine are down a little bit below my knees is what I have. It's a little bit low. And you're going to have a look that your knees and your feet are aligning. So we're going to always train that into your position. So it's second nature. You don't have to think about it then afterward. And what we're going to do is sit nice and tall through the back. And again, you're aiming to move through your hips. So when you come forward, think of your lower back moving forward. And then you're coming all the way back up. And I have my knees not quite out to a full stretch. They're in a little bit off. Somewhere like just before the stretch. So when I come forward, I do get a little bit of sensation and then moving back out of it. So from the side, completely off the mat. Nice and tall through the back. And you want to feel that it's your back that moves forward and then back up. Let's try that with some better posture. So nice and tall through the back and then moving forward in the hips. And then sliding back up. So I usually slide my hands just down toward my ankles and back. And again, you always move to where it feels really good to you in your hips. And back up again. You can focus a lot on your posture here. So when you feel that you're not rounding in your upper back, you're keeping that lovely straight line all the way along. And just move through the hips and back up again. And maybe through one practice of this, you might feel toward the end you do get a little looser, but over time, this definitely improves your range. I have very, very tight hips when I began exercising full stop, especially when I began Pilates. I had concrete hips. I'm just going to do one more in this position. And then the very last is the standing squats. So for your foot position, we're going to go from a slightly wider squat. So my feet are a little bit turned out, so when you're squatting here, again, make sure that your knees are passing across your feet, rather than your feet or your arches falling in. The reverse is slightly better. You want to feel that you are keeping your feet down and your legs are pushing out. You feel the outside of your bone cage. So I'm going to choose, dropping off my head, I'm going to choose a wider position in like this. So this is a plie squat or a sumo squat. So it's going to stretch the inner thighs, so make sure that when you do this, you only get a slight little bit of stretch. This is more about getting free and easy movement, as opposed to getting a very intense stretch. So we're going to start high. You're going to carry your arms out in front, makes it a little easier. So when you're squatting, you want to ensure that you're going to this level, unless you know that your baby is head down. When your baby is head down, you can progress to quite deep squats. So the deeper squatting position opens the pelvis, coming down to here. So you want to make sure that when your pelvis is open, the baby is descending head down, as opposed to bum down, or perhaps even feet down. This is the position. In the back, I'll show this sideways. The half on, half off the mat. We want to encourage the back posture to stay the same. So when we are squatting down, the line of the back stays the same, as opposed to changing. So some things I'll see is either curling your bum right under, or when you come down, you're kind of this position, and then back up, or really excessively arching the back and back up. So the first couple of times I do it with a mirror profile, to observe your profile, you will see if you're doing that. And I hope that when I'm looking forward, I am doing it correctly. And again, when you're squatting, just make sure that your knees are passing over the feet. So think of your knees not coming over the arches or moving inward. And again, in the breath, it's inhaling down and exhaling up. So we're going to inhale, we're stretching the pelvic floor when you come down, and exhaling, and we're getting a sense of lift on the way up. So it's inhaling and exhaling. And anyone with a keen eye will see that my hips are asymmetrical. They're not going down the same height. More single leg work with my coffee table is needed. At the very end, we're going to move to a static squat. So it is not advised to do this if you have any varicose veins in the vulva or hemorrhoids. So you don't want to get that downward pressure. So we're going to begin. Guesstimate the foot distance, and we're going to come down into our hunkers. So in the hunkers, we're going to aim to drop our heels. Mine don't always come down just yet. And hold in a stretch here. So an easy way to do this is with your back flush against a wall. Just going to lean into the wall. Your heels will come down, and you don't have to worry about ending up in your bum, which I would if I put my heels down. You can hold this stretch and practice your breathing, really encouraging that deep relaxation through the pelvic floor and getting a little sense of contraction, or maybe just allowing a natural contraction to occur that naturally happens when you breathe. Now if you find this is quite tight, an easy way to help release is to alternately press the knees forward toward the ground to get a little bit more work one side and then the other. On this, I like to have my feet a little narrower so my heels come toward my hips. You just walk knee down and the other. The deeper squat might feel a little bit easier. Those are a wee bit lower to the ground. So we're going to finish back with our relaxation breath. So returning to your upright seated position. Knees a little lower than your hips. Feeling that deep abdominal breath. Encouraging the abdomen to swell, the lower abdomen on the inhale, and exhaling all the way out. And letting go of any tension that you may feel through your neck, through your shoulders, through your back, and through your hips. preparation guide. So lots of tips in there, lots, a little bit more on exercise. This routine is the main, I suppose, part of the exercise of it. Thank you very much, everyone.